Okay, so what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Yet another Great Hat meeting. We, believe it or not, are in the final month of school for the semester, which is pretty nuts. The semester has flown by way fast. As such, I think we only have. So let's see. Today is what, the 3rd? So we have second. So we have the 9th and we have the 16th, and I believe the next week after that is Dead Week. So I think the best way to finish this semester in terms of the last thing, we sort of did something like this last year, was watch a movie together, and we all watched, I think it was Sneakers that we watched, and that movie was epic. We watched Hackers at some point too. Yeah, there were two separate movie watching meetings, but maybe. Yeah. That. Yeah. So at any rate, we really only have like one more presentation after this in terms of our general meetings. So we don't have that slot filled yet. So if anybody wants to take that, I invite you to volunteer. Also, so this Friday we have Jillian Cagliostro, I think I'm saying that correctly, our web dev admin in this next coming academic year. Her sister does a lot of really cool work in the information security field. She has like the top most clearance you can possibly get. So that's like above top secret. It's like top secret with specialized compartmental information. It's like same level as the president. So she's done a lot of really cool work. And she's going to be in town starting Thursday. And so Friday at 2 p.m. in the CULC, she's going to be giving a talk about hacking the InfoSec industry, talking about how she got her start, what she does, what sort of stuff there is out there. So she's just coming in as basically, I mean, she's not much older than all of y'all, and is doing really well in this field. So it should be a cool way to get, because we've seen a lot of the hacking stuff, we've seen a lot of the breaking stuff. But one of the things that we haven't seen is the more like administravia or other, not necessarily the offensive side, but maybe the defending side, maybe the reconnaissance side, stuff like that. So that's stuff that she's more directly involved in. I definitely think you guys should go attend that if you're free. It's this Friday at 2 p.m. in the CULC. I'll be sending out an email with more information either tonight or tomorrow. And the room only has capacity for 30. And I don't anticipate us using all 30, but we could very well. So if you're going to be there, it's probably a good idea to get there a little bit ahead of time. All right, so other than that, well, what I'm going to be talking about today is basically how we performed at iCTF, what we did, where we could have improved, and then we're going to be going over Security Onion. Who has played with Security Onion before? Awesome. Only 0.5 times 2. It's a really cool tool. It's really powerful. Unfortunately, we weren't able to use it to its full extent due to some network topology issues for the iCTF. But it's something that very simple to throw up, very powerful. Basically blows all of the closed source like implementations out of the water. This thing is just incredible. So definitely excited to show you a little bit about that. Go ahead and come on up, grab yourself some pizza. Alex is trying to find drinks, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, guys. So, as some of you might know, we competed in something called the iCTF. Let's see, the Friday of spring break. So was that really less than a week ago? Was last week? Okay, yeah. Everything's blurring together these days. So it was a lot of fun. There were a few hiccups. We definitely ran into some issues that we did not anticipate. Overall, it was really a learning experience. I think we're going to do very well moving forward. But yeah, everybody that was in attendance seemed to have had a good time. We definitely got some points. We did well. We were at one point we were like 94th out of 98, and so we went from 94th out of 98 all the way up to 24th out of 98. So that's pretty good. It would have sucked to have stayed at 94th. So in this iCTF, I took the role of defender. And because we didn't really need any more than a single person on it, it was sort of enough work for a single person to do and not much more. I was really the only one that got to see how the system worked, how to use it, and how to gain points from it. So as such, I thought it would be a good idea, and it was also Nick's idea, to sort of talk about what I did, how it worked, and sort of the workflow that I developed in order to properly defend during this iCTF. So, what is the iCTF? So you all are familiar with the whole notion of capture the flag. It's just basically something where you can go and hack other people and all fair game. You're able to get into other machines and do stuff that would otherwise be considered nefarious. And there's some point gaining scheme as well. So it's a competition. The iCTF is the International Capture the Flag. It's hosted by the University of California at Santa Barbara. It's done every year, and this is widely regarded to be the largest CTF in terms of academia. The DEF CON CTF is likely a bit more difficult, and I believe if you place first at the iCTF, you are automatically registered for the DEF CON CTF. Is that true? I heard that somewhere. That might just be conjecture, though. So what's really cool about this was that it was spread across the globe. So on the scoreboard, it actually had the flag of every single team, or every single team's nation. So there were plenty from Germany and from Sweden and from Canada and from the United States. There might have even been some from Mexico. Definitely some from Russia. Like there were a ton of different countries represented. Out of the 98 teams that were there, only 36 of them were American. So it happens every single year, and while this one was in 2013, it's not the official 2013 UCSB iCTF, I don't believe. It's supposed to be in December every year, but it was unable to be in December this past year because there was some bureaucratic stuff that went down. If you want to read more about this while I'm talking, the URL is up there. It's ictf.cs.ucsb.edu. And they have a lot of information about competitions that have been held in the past. I think they have ISOs from previous competitions and stuff like that. So if you're interested in seeing more about what we did and you weren't there, then please feel free to take a look at this website. Like I said, we got 24th out of 98. We're in the top. I guess that makes us almost 25%. No, top 25%. Yeah. So top 25%, that's pretty cool. We were in the bottom 4%, so that was a huge difference. We got 5th out of the 36 American teams. We beat Air Force. They were one of our big competitors that we saw from Seesaw. However, and don't tell anybody this last part, we were beat by UGA. And UGA is like, that was what UGA got, like 4th. I'm pretty sure they got top 5. So Sec Dogs are actually some pretty competent guys. Yeah, right. So how did the competition work? Again, this competition changes every year. And so this one was apparently more unique as compared to previous years than it has been normally. So in our preparations, we sort of took a look at how things have been done previously and tried to make a guess at how things are going to happen this year. And it turns out that the guess was sort of wrong in some ways that really hurt us in terms of the way we had our network topology set up. but we definitely took care of those problems. So the fiction behind it is that every single country represents some fictional nation, and you have your own server, and this server runs services that are critical to the infrastructure of your nation. So that's why your services can't go down. Now, these services are all vulnerable. They all have some sort of, in some cases subtle, in other cases not as much, vulnerability in them. And every single team has their own copy of the same server. So the same vulnerabilities are present on all the servers right when the gates open. And this server is hosted at the UCSB network. And so everybody just basically VPNs in. They have access to their server that they have to defend. And they can't actually, we could not touch any of the other team's servers, even though we were writing exploits to try and hit them. The way it worked was basically you have to look at your server, look at the services, figure out how these services are exploitable, and then write something that conformed to this basically structure in Python. And then you sell this exploit to this ZDI framework. And basically, this ZDI framework is sitting in the middle of the UCSB network, and it's the one that's constantly attacking all of the teams. So the idea being, you sell them an exploit, and they use it to attack all the teams, and that gives you, you get a cut of the money that they get from doing that. So one of the things that really, that we struggled with was we didn't get any attacks out the door until probably 3 or 4 hours before the competition ended. And out of the 98 teams, basically, let's say that every single time you get a successful attack, you get 1,000 points. Well, you only get, there are 100 points to distribute between all the teams for the attacking category, and the amount of those 100 points that you get is proportional to how many attacking points you have per attack as compared to everybody else. So if I have 5,000 points from 5 successful attacks, and somebody else has 10,000 points, they're going to get a twice as large slice of the pie as I am. The implications of that for us was that because some people got exploits up and running straight out of the door, they got them running for a much, much longer time. So by the time that we got ours running, the slice of the pie that was left to pull away from them was very, very small. As such, we were unable to get much of a foothold in terms of attacking points. So other stuff that you had to do, for defense, basically there were 2 things that you had to do. You had to look at the services and figure out how they're exploitable and then patch your services. And then you would also basically watch the network traffic coming to your machine. And the goal was to find malicious traffic. And if you find malicious traffic, you need to flag it as such. And then that's how you get points. Yes?
The problem with patching is that the legitimate traffic was also using the vulnerabilities.
So there were some issues with everything. All of the infrastructure sort of fell over at one point. And it was pretty funny to be in the IRC channel, actually, because everybody started making memes about how nobody had access to net flows. And so they're all like Zoidberg memes and yeah. All like it was really, really funny. Everybody was just trolling UCSB for the inability to provide us with net flows. So basically, the role that I played was monitoring network traffic and trying to find. Yes. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. My role was to look at the network traffic and figure out what the malicious traffic was, and then flag it as such. And we got a decent amount of points in doing so. So, are there any questions about that? Any questions about how the competition actually worked? Fantastic. So, like I said earlier, one of the big issues that we ran into was that the topology that we assumed we were going to be working with was not the topology that we ended up working with. So this is what we assumed. Basically, we have the UCSB network out here. We have a VPN gateway, and then we have a security onion instance, and then basically all of the traffic for all of the machines that we're attacking from, as well as the server that we are supposed to be defending, will be routed through security onion. This is what security onion is for. You can deploy it in 2 modes. You can deploy it as just a server or a sensor. But what this is going to do, if let's say that this is in sensor mode, you would put another security onion server up somewhere else, and then this sensor would watch all the traffic that went by and make sure that traffic gets reported to the central reporting server. If you just have it as a standalone server, then you can SSH into this box, or you can just, just basically you get access to this box, and then you just watch all the traffic that flows by, and you use all of these network traffic analysis tools to infer details of what you're seeing. So this would have been ideal, because this means that considering all of the traffic that would have been attacking us would be originating from the UCSB network, and it would all be heading towards our server to protect, that every single piece of traffic would be going right through our security onion box. Perfect. I could just sit on it. I could watch it as it goes by. I can report in real time. No problem. This is what we got. So as you can see, our server to protect is not in our lab anymore. It is actually on UCSB's, I would assume, campus. So as such, we really couldn't position a security onion instance between what was going to be attacking our server and the server itself. So this sort of took away the ability to do this sort of stuff in real time. Otherwise, I mean, if you have the security onion instance on the wire between things that you need to be looking at, you can be finding stuff in real time as they come in. There might be a few seconds delay on a report being generated, but basically, if an attack that you define goes across the wire, it will be in your GUI as an alarm within like 5 seconds. So it's really, really good to have it there on the wire. But again, the tools that it comes packaged with, one of the great things about Security Onion, you could set up all that Security Onion has yourself. What's really, really nice about it is that you can go from having no visibility to setting up, installing it, and having it completely configured and ready to go within like 10 minutes. And then you have just a myriad of tools that are all already working together that allow you to react to things that are going on in your network. So this was a big point of contention for us. This sort of really threw us off. We didn't have the ability to image the server as we wanted to, and just this, that, and the other thing. But after a little bit, after a few hiccups, we all got up and running and started rolling with it. Yeah. So what they don't tell you how it's going to work until 48 hours prior to the competition. So one of the interesting things that makes us do is you have to look at what's happened in the past. What do we think is likely to happen this time around? And basically, this year was more different as compared to previous years than it has usually been in the past. Like there's been a consistent theme for a little while, and then this one just completely broke away from it. And in doing so, UCSB sort of dropped the ball just a little bit. I mean, I had an awesome time, but the teams that were doing really well, they were really, really complaining about their inability to get access to net flows, which kept them from getting defensive points. So does this make sense to everybody? Does this make sense why this would be a bit of an issue in terms of taking away our ability to do real-time stuff? So one of the ways that this was fixed that Nick did for us is basically he set up something called, SSHFS. So it's a file system tunneled over SSH, and what it does is it keeps basically a directory here on this box synced with a directory on that box. So we use TCP dump, which basically is a packet capturing software that you can get in like pretty much any Linux distribution. And we just wrote that out to files, and we wrote that out to files in the directory. And those were synced to the security onion machine, so we could go ahead and analyze those. Not quite in real time, but far more in real time than we were working with when we first got up and running. So I probably should have gone to this slide when I was talking about that. And so one of the reasons that the liveness of doing this really mattered was that you only get the longer it takes for you to detect an intrusion, the less points you get. So if you're able to detect an intrusion immediately, you get 1,000 points. And then as time goes on, it basically falls off exponentially. not only that, but in order to defend, they provide you with net flows. And what net flows are very high level. They provide you with a catalog of the net flows, and basically they will give you, for every single connection between 2 points in the network that they're monitoring, they will give you source IP, source port, destination IP, destination port, timestamp, and an identifier. So basically what we had to do is we had to look at all of the network traffic that we were getting through TCP dump, find the malicious traffic, figure out who are the hosts talking in this conversation, and what were the ports, and what was the timestamp, go into the net flows, find the net flows ID, and then put that into the system. And if that was correct, you get 1,000 points, minus however long it's taken you to report it. And if it's incorrect, you lose 100 points. So not only is it does liveness matter in that sense, but the way that they were providing us with net flows was via a URL. And every time you hit this URL, it only gives you the last 10 minutes of net flows. So if it takes me longer than 10 minutes to get a PCAP file off of the box onto the local, put it in Wireshark, take a look at it, find the malicious traffic, map that to the net flows, they might not even be in the net flows logs anymore. That might have been longer than 10 minutes ago. And then all of those points go out the door. It's just a waste of time. So we definitely fumbled around a bit until Nick got that SSHFS set up, and then we were rocking and rolling. So can anybody tell me what the difference is between an IDS and an IPS?
An IPS will try to stop whatever's going on.
Right. As opposed to?
Just if an IDS will be like, hey, there's some exfiltration data on port whatever.
Exactly. So when talking about trying to defend networks in real time, you are going to hear a lot about IDSs and IPSs. And so an IDS is an intrusion detection system. And there's a few flavors of intrusion detection systems out there, but the idea is that this is a dashboard that you have to, it's a way of, when you're dealing with network traffic, there's so much information. If you have a large network, I think just 2 or 3 labs in the College of Computing produce 100 megabits per second. That's a ton of data to try and sort through. I mean, that's going to become insurmountable if you're trying to look at all of the data by yourself without any filters. So what you need to do is you need to have some sort of smart mechanism in place that can alert you to things that could potentially be happening. That's what an IDS is. The open source IDS that you will find on SecurityOnion, it comes with 2. I don't know why it's packaged with 2, but it looked like the one that it was primarily pulling from is called Snort. The other one is called Bro. And it's a funny name. And so those 2 are 2 very popular open source IDSs. They are not intrusion protection systems. The difference between the 2, as Alex said, basically an intrusion detection system is just going to be a tool that allows you to visualize the data that you have to work with. It's going to take this massive amount of data, hopefully filter out all of the stuff that's not relevant, which generally speaking it will filter out some of the stuff that's relevant as well. There will be false negatives. And then get you the meat of what you really need to look at so that you can actually have the tools to react in real time to attacks that are happening on your network. And then the intrusion protection system is basically that, and then on top of that, it adds this, okay, we're going to actively block traffic that we think meets this criteria. What's the issue with an IPS then, if that's what it does? False positives, yeah. Yes?
Also, you can't, if there's malware exfiltrating on whatever, you're just blocking it. You as a human can't know, oh, there's malware that we need to analyze, maybe patch our systems.
Sure.
Also, if they're worried about false positives blocking real traffic, wouldn't they bias it towards not blocking legit traffic?
So all of this is correct. And the idea being that what you have a confidence matrix, or what's called a confidence matrix. When discussing whether or not you found something malicious, You have a true positive, that's something that is malicious, that you flagged as malicious. You have a false positive, which is something that is not malicious, which has been flagged as malicious. You have a false negative, which is something that is malicious and was flagged otherwise. Then you have a true negative, which is something that's not malicious, not flagged. So ideally, you have 100% true positives and true negatives. That's not the case. And one of the best ways to mitigate this issue is basically you have a system which intelligently brings to you information that you then, as a human, can parse, take a look at very quickly, and then make that decision whether or not this is a true positive. An intrusion protection system tries to automate that process, and in such probably is clamoring a bunch of stuff that you shouldn't. So you can, with a few hacks, you can actually turn Security Onion into an IPS. You can configure Snort a little bit differently, and if you put it in the way as a gateway, it will actually actively block traffic. But for our purposes, we only needed it as an IDS. So Security Onion, awesome tool built on Ubuntu. Is that how you spell it? X-Ubuntu? Ubuntu, whatever. Ubuntu with an X before it, and it's open source. It's on Google Code. The guy that basically put it all together and continues to maintain it, he came and gave a talk about it at DC 404. He lives in the Southeast. Really cool guy. Definitely looking for more contributors to this project. At this point, it's fairly mature. There's some updates that are being rolled out every once in a while, but it's a really good tool as it currently stands. It comes packaged out of the box with like Wireshark, Bro, Snort, Suricata, Squeal. Suricata and Squeal being basically graphic user interfaces to the data that Snort's providing. I think the next one. Okay, so we're going to basically, I'm going to run through installing Security Onion and then run through how to use it for a little bit, and then we're going to look at a PCAP file that we have from the competition itself and see. I'll show you what I was actually doing while defending. Yes?
Is Suricata and Squid going to become the new Vim Emacs debate?
I don't think so, no. I believe Suricata is web-based. I think that it's basically on an HTTP server, and Squeal is not. I think Squeal is like written in Python or something. I don't know. But they all have their different strengths and weaknesses. Suricata is much more graphical in terms of showing you like statistics over time, so you can actually see like what types of traffic are like the volume of different types of traffic through your network in real time and stuff like that. Whereas Squeal, one of the things you're going to see is I can go from, like I was saying, if you have this implemented in the real-time manner, then you're getting these alerts within like 5 seconds of them actually going across the wire. So you can go from it going across the wire to getting the alert to seeing that there was a .exe file that went on the wire as well, to saving that exe file in a folder, to scanning that with an anti-malware piece of software in like roughly 10 seconds. So it's really, really powerful. So any questions before we start rolling with this? All right. So I'm going to pull up my VirtualBox Manager and create a new VM. Just name it SO2. I've already got Security Onion on here once. Give it some memory. Power it up, get the ISO, and start. And so one thing to keep in mind while I'm doing this is just keep in mind how quickly this is happening. We're about to go from, well, hopefully, and now that I say it, it's probably going to break, but we're about to go from having no visibility to having basically complete visibility in an amount of time that prior to Security Onion was very difficult to achieve without having your own like hand-rolled software that you've done ahead of time, or a commercial product. Also, has anybody noticed a lot of spam on GT email lately? Anybody else? I mean, I'm like being flooded by it. Is it just me? Okay.
Like the extra income ones.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal is, but
Thought we had a decent spam filter. I mean, T-Series is a very good one.
oh. All right. So hopefully this is gonna boot. Maybe I spoke too soon. Yeah. Well, if it doesn't work, I already have another one installed. I'll just go to that one. We can skip the installation process. So while we're waiting for this, has anybody heard anything interesting in the news recently about I don't know, anything related to InfoSec? Do what? Do what? Well, yeah, I mean there was that, which unfortunately is not true. But anybody hear anything about the massive DDoS? Yeah, that was real. That was before April Fools. 300 gigabits per second, and it still didn't take it down. Well, it's a CDN. So the service that Spamhaus provides is provided by CDN. So basically, it was resilient to a 300 Gbps DDoS. Yeah, which is pretty incredible. What is going on here? Oh yeah. I meant to announce it at the beginning of the meeting. So Outer Zone '09 is this coming weekend. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Saturday is the day that they have the majority of the talks, if not pretty much all of them. And one of our own members is going to be giving a talk. Chad Ramey is going to be talking about hacking the atom and basically nuclear physics, and I guess an experiment that he did in his garage pertaining to such. So it's going to be pretty awesome. It's thrown by the same guys that put on SkyDogCon, which for those of you that went to SkyDogCon, I'm sure you had a really good time. Oh gosh. But it's going to be a lot of really cool people there. It's free to go, down by the airport in this little hotel. So if you can make it, it's definitely worth checking out if you don't have anything else going on. It's going to be a smaller thing, but it's definitely going to be a good time. I myself personally cannot be there, unfortunately, but it will definitely be a good time. So I sent out an email about that as well to the mailing list. Yeah.
Just remember, I know by the airport it won't really matter, but this weekend's Final Four at the Georgia Dome, so just take that into account.
Yeah. OMG. I'm just going to open up my other one. Yes, Tim. I don't. So I think they have registration there, and it's free. So I'm not entirely sure. I would say check the website. I don't think it should be a problem. All right, so like I said, if I mentioned anything about how I would have a successful presentation, it would break. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop up the instance that I have installed already. The guide for installing this is so straightforward. It's just basically you pop it up with the live CD, you double-click on setup.sh. It asks you a bunch of questions. You keep hitting OK, and then it reboots and you're installed. Done. So Waiting for network configuration. Get the hell out of here. Bridge adapter, that would be the problem. And this one's still not working. So there's a basically what I'm going to be showing is pretty much straight from the guide that they have on the Security Onion website in terms of how to first install it and then patch it, and then ways you can start messing around with the tools. So if you're interested in seeing what I'm doing or just seeing a guide as to what I'm doing, just go to the Security Onion website and look for, like, I believe it's the, let's see, I have it open over here. It's the introduction walkthrough, one word, camel case. Oh, that was not something I should have typed in front of you all. All right, so this is Security Onion. If you've ever used a Linux distribution before, it probably looks sort of familiar. It's built off of Ubuntu. I'm just going to call it Ubuntu. I don't know if that's right. But this is after everything has been installed and patched. I think I still need to run setup, though. So we'll run setup. And so you have the initial, basically you have the initial installation where you get all the software on the machine, and then you patch it all up, and then you reboot, and then the next time you come in, you basically have to set up all the software. Like I said before, there's a lot of moving, sort of like components that work together, and so this is just a really nice way to get them all configured properly and integrated and running without you doing very much. So, all right, click yes, okay. I'm going to say that I'm getting my IP via DHCP. Oh, why do I need to reboot? All right, well, I guess I have to do that. Jesus. Do what? No, it's an onion.
No, like the Ubuntu little thing.
Oh, yeah, it's a mouse. Mm-hmm. Although I could see why you would think it was a beating heart. All right, so back here, double click on setup. Our interfaces should have been configured properly. Continue. Skip network configuration. Click setup. I'm going to say my username is going to be Bob. And bob@bob.com. And set my password. That was alphanumeric. Oh, wait. There we go. Okay, and then it's setting up ELSA, and then it basically tells you all the changes it's about to make to the system, and you go ahead and hit proceed. And this other one is now up and running. Wow, look at that. Yay, live boot. And so what I'm going to be demonstrating as well, this is only a subset of the, yeah, all of the tools surrounding Snort are all like pig related, because Snort Snort is a pig icon. So there's squeal, which is like, and then there's like pulled pork and like all this stuff. But what I'm going to be demonstrating is only a small number of the tools available on this system. There's a lot of stuff. Basically, the sequence of how you go from getting the data to the alert to processing the data to taking an action, there's basically a bunch of different compartments that you can use different software pieces for, and this one has a handful of different software pieces for each one of those parts. So what I'm showing you, I'll show you Wireshark, I'll show you like network. I forget what the network one is called. And then I'll show you Squeal, but there's also Suricata, there's also Bro to replace Snort. There's all sorts of stuff. So there's plenty of other things that you can dig down into should you be interested. All right, and that should be done in just about a second. Spoke too soon. It's going to freeze on me, I'm calling it. There we go. This? What?
Like when you mouse over the bottom, it like pops up with the macro item.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we have all of this set up, I'm going to go ahead and open up Squeal. Okay, so when you go into Squeal, basically it's going to give you a list of the interfaces that you can listen to on the device. So basically, let's say that you were setting this up like I initially showed in that topology. You would want to most likely, if you're setting yourself up as a gateway, you'd likely want to take traffic from one interface and route another. And so basically, you would just stand in between those two. You would want to monitor both of them. In this case, there's only one on this device. And then they give you this OSSec one, which I'm not entirely sure what this is, but this is a interface that Security Onion provides you. I'm not sure what it does, though. So we'll go to Start Squeal. And this is basically what you get with this Squeal tool. So let's go ahead and let's see. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. Basically, they give you a number of sudo TCP replay, a number of PCAP files which contain potentially malicious traffic in them that basically you can replay on your interface to see if your tools are working. So that's what I'm going to do here. There's let's see. Can I get this to full screen? There we go. So I'm going to open up terminal. What the heck? All right, so I've got F0, so sudo TCP replay /IF0 /M10. Oh my gosh. /M-10. And then, where are they? /op/sample/startup pcat. So as I play this, watch what's going on in the background. I'll get it out of the way real quick, but notice that there's only a few alerts right now. So I'm going to go ahead and play that and put in my sudo password. So here you go. This is basically what happens as this network traffic comes by. So not only that, but the things that are popping up here to write your own rules. Let's say that you find, through some other means, you find that there is some malware that is residing on machines inside your network that is not being caught by this, but you have found it otherwise. Well, creating rules that pop things up into this is very, very simple. It's a very concise way that you're able to describe it. It's very fine as well in terms of you can specify crazy specific stuff, like saying, in the data section of the packet at this offset, I need this bit sequence in this range. Like there's crazy rules you can support, and then you can have them just pop up here with different severities and stuff like that. But yeah, so this is what you get. Let's go ahead and take a look at one of the events that happened here. I'm going to try and move some of this stuff over. Move that. Get out of here. So we see this one, ET info packed executable download. That sounds like sort of bad news. Executables are not necessarily a good thing. So I'm going to hit show packet data. And this is pretty cool, huh? So what we have here, now in this bottom right-hand corner, we have all of the flags that were up in the TCP sequence. We have the payload, and we have basically source IP, destination IP, like checksum, all that sort of stuff. And then if you want to see additionally what rule gave you this alert, you can click on show rule. And so don't be afraid because of this one. This is a really complicated rule. Snort rules don't have to be this complicated, but the ones that basically there are lists of these that centralized security repositories distribute that you can basically say, give me those lists, because they basically look at all the malware that they've seen and find rules to tag all of them. So there might be some polymorphic malware, things that are shifting around that are going to subvert those, but basically if it's been seen in the past, the lists that these organizations provide are generally pretty good at catching them. So this is sort of cool, but I'm not convinced that this is great, right? But let's do reverse DNS. Holy smokes, look at that. Basically now when I click on something, it's going to tell me the host name of where it came from, which is sort of cool. Maybe if you see a .ru at the end of it, it might raise a red flag. So there's all sorts of other stuff you can look at down here, but let's start looking at the sort of things that you can break into. So the really cool thing with Squeal, like this dashboard is interesting. This dashboard shows you a lot of really cool stuff, and then in real time when you have network traffic coming in, you can respond to it very quickly, but it's way more utilitarian than that. So I'm going to right-click here and go to View Correlated Events. Here's every single time that flag has been, or that warning has been thrown in the traffic that I've seen so far. And I've got all the different dates, or all the different times, all the different source IPs, source port, destination IPs. These are all the ones that basically have happened that flag is associated with. So that's a really good way to see the scale of the event that's happening in your network. There's still cooler things that we can do. Let's look at it in Wireshark. So keeping in mind that all I had to do was right-click, drag, and let go, and it opens up the entire TCP conversation in Wireshark. So now I can see, okay, this is a bit more rich in terms of the data that I have. I can do follow TCP stream, and now I have the entire conversation. So did y'all catch what that said?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, y'all know what executable that is now, right?
For sure.
Yes.
I was kind of curious, so could you forward that TCP conversation to like a program that, say, you're using type of encryption, potentially?
So Wireshark does that. Mm-hmm. If you have the private key, or if you have the certificate, or if you basically have the secret cryptographic object that will decrypt that stream, there are ways to say that, okay, use this certificate on all SSH traffic between these hosts in Wireshark.
Well, at least for SSL traffic, like TLS traffic. I think he's talked about like the file is encrypted or something. Or is...
I was sort of saying, like, I think some forms of wireless security that are encrypted.
Yeah, so WEP keys, WPA keys, basically SSL certificates, all of that stuff you can provide to Wireshark, and it will decrypt the stuff for you. Now, if you have encrypted payloads, so if I have like an encrypted zip file that's going along on an HTTP transfer, unless that's sort of out of the scope of what something that's a network level analysis mechanism is going to provide you. But yeah, so this is pretty cool, because basically this just went from, okay, active alert, right-click, Wireshark, now I see the whole conversation, and I can actually look through it. But remember, what was so alarming about this one, right? There was an executable. It would be really nice if I could get my hands on that executable, right? Well, turns out that's a loaded question because I can get my hands on the executable. So there's this thing called Network Miner, which is the first time that I had ever used this. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that. And it's going to pop up. And so, yeah, here's the two machines. It knows this one's Linux. It knows this one's Windows. Here's the files. Here's the two files that were transferred. And the protocol, dport, all that sort of stuff. So you have OS, Windows, outgoing sessions, sent, received. Let's see. I forget where it is. Incoming sessions. So there's the two files that were transferred. So again, you can go from an alert popping up to actually having a copy of the file that the alert came from and scanning it with something like that. That's really, really powerful, especially if you can catch these sort of infections as they're coming in like this. So that, and there's plenty of it. So another thing that you can do, which you sort of have to have a lot of data in your like Snort database to run this sort of stuff, but you can actually say, hey, I think I've seen this IP address before. I'm going to do a quick lookup. There you go. Now you have all of the traffic that's ever originated from that IP that Snort has ever seen, just clicking like that. So basically what the main thing that Squeal provides you is just, it's a tool to have very, very fast reaction to things that are happening on a network level. Are there any questions about what's been shown so far? Anybody want to see anything else in particular with this stuff? Yes?
So are those priorities supposed to represent, or the PR, or actually I'm looking at two things, like there's the PR and then there's like the colors on the left.
So from my understanding, basically the color on the left is the one that's indicative of the severity of what's happening. You can assign different severity levels. But the scales that these come from are, again, from those public repositories of this information. So they sort of have a better say in terms of what's more severe than what, right? Because I can have like a bright red severity for like, I think I saw MySQL injection over here or something like that. Yes?
Did Squeal actually help you get into the conversation, like so you could be the man in the middle?
No.
Or no,
No.
it just helped you listen?
It just listens, yeah. Robert, you have something? Okay. So what I was anticipating doing for the competition was basically, if we had this, as you can see, like this is powerful, especially for real-time analysis of incoming traffic. So if we had been able to position this box in between everybody else and our server, this would have been fantastic. We could have automated the process of finding the flags. I knew how to write these rules, which are down here. So basically, we can look at Wireshark, look at the actual traffic, figure out, hey, this looks like how a flag is being transmitted. Write a rule, throw it in this, and then every single time that flag is transmitted, it tells me exactly what it was. I can query the whole list of them, get all the source IPs, destination IPs, source ports, destination ports, timestamps, and all the NetFlow IDs, and just pop them right in. Yes? How they did it last year. There was, we had reason to believe that they would be distributing an ISO to us. And that's basically what we were basing it off of, is that, if you're going to give us an ISO and it's going to have the software that we need to run for this, then clearly we're going to be hosting it on our own machines. Therefore, it's going to be within our control. Therefore, we can position it accordingly in our network topology. 48 hours prior to the thing, no ISO had been sent out. So we realized that it's probably not going to be a good idea for 98 teams around the world to try to download a 1.2 gigabyte ISO all at the same time. So basically at that point we sort of realized, okay, we don't have physical access to this machine anymore. We can't position it where it would be advantageous to us. Yes, yes. So right. But at the same time, part of the deal with security is that you have to know about the tools. This is not, if you search Security Onion on Google, you don't get securityonion.com. You get securityonion.blogspot.com. Like it's not necessarily as big as it might sound to us, especially considering this guy lives in the Southeast and he's given a presentation about it at the local DEF CON meetup group. So it definitely does. It takes a little bit of knowledge in terms of like how the workflow works and how you write snort rules. But once you get that under your belt, if you're able to position this between who's potentially attacking you and yourself, you are golden. You are golden. This is such a fantastic tool to do this sort of stuff. So that being said, we weren't able to use Squeal. Basically, the only thing that we used out of the entire Security Onion package was just Wireshark, and it worked really well. Once we got the actual syncing set up, once we had the SSHFS set up so that we could get local packet capture files, everything else sort of fell into place. So let's see. I think this has Sony storage media. You know what? I don't even need to do this in here now that I think about it. So I'll go ahead and get rid of that instance, and this one can go to hell as well. Oh, forget it. Get this one out of here. Power off the machine. Fantastic. Closing. Get rid of this. Rid of that. Rid of this. Rid of this. Rid of this. All right, so who here has used Wireshark before? Okay, good. Who here has used it a lot and had to process actually large PCAP files with it? Awesome. This is really the first time that I ever actively used Wireshark. I had done a little bit with it before, but I really didn't appreciate how awesome of a tool it is until I used it for this competition. So, computer. Movable disk. Okay, let's see which one's the biggest one. Okay, so this is the actual PCAP file, or one of the actual PCAP files, where basically every 10 minutes we would cut off TCP dump, have it, and then take that file, have it moved over to our machine, and then start analyzing it, and then start TCP dump up again, basically writing it to a new file. So here we have this data, and now the goal was, in all of this data, I have to find the malicious traffic. So this, how would you guys approach this? Looking at this data, how would you approach this? You look for HTTP. But not everything was HTTP, right? There were plenty that weren't, yeah. So we are looking for flags being passed, for one. And we also know that we know what services are running on our machine and at what ports. We also know that there's only one other machine that should be talking to us. Like I was saying, basically there's this hitman machine, which is hitting everybody else. So there's a single IP address, which is going to be pulling all the flags off of ours. We also know that there's a lot of SSH connections going into this machine. Do we care about those SSH connections? So we are the only ones that have access to a machine. So we don't care, right? So basically, we have this massive file. So what I was first thinking is like, okay, how do I start making sense of this? The first thing I'm going to do is say not SSH. Yeah, get in there. You're spoiling the ending. Okay, so and so after a little bit of looking around, we did have the IP addresses of various machines in our. Basically, we knew the IP address of the server that was hitting ours, and it turns out that it was 10.13.38.31, and ours was 10.13.37.31. So my intuition after that was like, okay, well, we need to look at conversations between these two. Those are the only two that we're concerned with. So let's put that filter in there as well. So you run this. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. This looks like this looks a bit more promising. It's still quite a bit, but at this point we're not looking at any encrypted traffic. We only have conversations that are going on between the two. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see, save this one for default. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm just going to look at one of these. I'm going to say follow this TCP stream. The search query. Huh. Look at that. That was just one of the random TCP streams between the two. Does it look like there's a flag in that?
Yeah. FLG.
And it looks like the flag starts with the letters FLG. So this sort of made it a little bit easier. We were initially thinking like, okay, once we see a flag, we're going to figure out what is it, how is it being generated, like what's a regex that's going to match it, like all this sort of stuff. And then it was like, okay, well, it just starts with FLG. So it's it made it a good bit easier for us. So, but now that we have that information, how do we find it? And this is one of the places that Keith Watson really helped us out. I didn't know that you had this functionality on Wireshark, and it's epic. It's really, really awesome. So I'm going to come back here, go back to the last filter that I had. Okay, so, and I'm going to go in here and hit Control F, and I'm going to go for a string, and say FLG. I'm looking at in the packet bytes, and I'm going to go up. Because basically, again, the sooner you can report a malicious traffic stream, the better. So I want to look at the most recent ones first, just so I can get the most points out of it, because the rest of them are exponentially decaying. So I'm going to hit Find. Hey. Look at that down here. So I'm going to go to follow TCP stream again. And that's the same one. Damn it. Stop. So at this point, I'm just going to say FLG. I'm going to find it again. And you can see down here, basically, that's the content of the packets that were, basically the content of the packet that was going across. So I'm just going to keep hitting this. Okay, this is a different one. Let me take a look at this one. Right-click, follow TCP stream. Yeah. So all of the blue is the traffic coming from the server. All of the red is the traffic being pushed to the server. So let's see what happens. Oh, control panel. Build a new nuclear plant. This blah, 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 blah. Your choice. 1. Creating a new plant. File. Oh, that's... And then boom. The uber-duper secret self-destruction code is FLG, blah, 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 blah. So one of the ways that we tried to have workflow during this competition was that basically, because we have a bunch of people looking at the services that are running, and they're trying to determine how these services are vulnerable. Well, one of the ways we can see that the service is vulnerable and how it's vulnerable is to see how other people are exploiting it. So taking a look at this one in particular, it was basically just this control panel where you modify the different levels of different like chemicals in a nuclear power plant. It turns out that there is basically a buffer overflow where if you kept creating new power plants and gave it just like massive names, it would finally overflow, and when it overflowed, it would dump the flag out. So that's one of the ways that we were able to look at what's currently happening and then say, okay, this is how this is exploitable, and this is how this is patchable, right? That makes sense? Huh? This is the one that you got, right, Nick?
We didn't patch it, but what we did was, so I was working on this one, and I realized, so you had all of these exploits against it, and instead of trying to figure out exactly how to exploit it properly, I just sort of copied exactly what everybody else was doing and put it into just, send this string.
Mm-hmm. And it worked. Yeah.
It's easier just to
Yeah.
exploit because we were catching so many of them.
Yeah, because by the time they said prior to the competition, like, you're going to have to find the malicious traffic and the benign traffic. And then I was like, yeah, good luck finding the benign traffic because it's all malicious. So you'd just be like railing through it. Yeah.
Well, the problem was that the benign traffic was using exploits too, and so you could just patch it.
So the problem was that the distinction between benign and malicious traffic was not able to actually be verified by the people monitoring the network. So like I said earlier, basically you wanted to create weaponized code. You wanted to put it in this basically method in a Python file, and you wanted to sell that exploit to a centralized attacking server. The return, I believe, basically, from my understanding, this method is basically it specifies which flag you're supposed to pull, and then you're supposed to return the flag from the function. So the only way something was malicious to the UCSB infrastructure was if the correct flag was returned. It doesn't matter whether or not you actually exploited the service and got the flag to be dumped out to you. You had to take that flag and return it from the Python function. So there was basically a lot of traffic that flags were being poured out in, and they were actual active exploits, and those were not considered to be malicious traffic flows because I guess the weaponized code was not pulling the proper flag out, or maybe they were just doing it as misdirection. They knew that other people would be getting points off for flagging this. So the way that they tried to distinguish between malicious and non-malicious didn't really work. And there were a handful of other problems, but again, for the scale of the competition, it was really, really, really fun, and despite the fallback problems. So are there? Does this make sense? Does anybody else want to see anything? I mean, I can't think of anything else I could show with this because basically, the way that it worked, once I see, okay, there's a flag. This is a malicious trace. I go back down here, and I look at, okay, source IP from here, destination IP to there. Come up here, go to Ethernet to, is it IP? Where is it? Where is it? Frame. Arrival time. Here's my, so basically, between this right here, I have the time that it arrived, and then I have the source IP, source port, destination IP, destination port. I just take this, and I look at the net flows. I get the net flows ID, and then I submit the net flows ID to their web portal, and that's what got us points. And so at the end of the competition, we had 3 points in the defense thing. It's 3.00. That was actually pretty good. I think in terms of defensive points, we were probably in the top 20 at least. But we just didn't do well in the do as well as other teams in the other categories. So that's about it. That's how we defended the iCTF. This is by no means the way that it happens every single year. Yes.
I think by the end, the other teams have gotten so many offense points that our offense score is rounded down to 0.00.
Yeah, again, that was sort of the issue that, especially with the attacking one, it was cumulative because as soon as you get it in, that exploit is constantly being run. So.
We got really confused by how the infrastructure worked, which let us not get the exploits from initial halfway as we should have.
I thought there were a handful of other issues with that as well, but sure, it definitely didn't help.
It was very difficult to debug them because you would essentially send something in, like the way in which we were supposed to write the exploits was kind of specified, but if you sent in a piece of code, it would just say yep or nope, and it was kind of hard to tell what exactly the problem was.
So they had tarballs of the services, so you could set it all up on your local machine.
The thing I was maddest about that was
Yeah.
because I found the vulnerability early on, but I didn't run the exploit because I didn't see the flag in the service.
Yep.
Later found out they were actually using the vulnerability to remotely set a flag in your service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yes.
Was the feedback fast, or like 2 hours ago you were actually doing?
Oh, it was updated in real time. So yeah, we could see once we finally got on the ball with the defending thing, we were like in like 50 something. No. That was back when we were like at 94, and we saw ourselves like rising up very, very quickly there. Basically, we jumped from like 94 to the 50s in like 5 minutes, and then we slowly got up to 24th within the next 3 hours. So yeah. So any other questions about the competition? Anything like that? All right, cool. Outer Zone this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Trish's talk is on Friday, 2 p.m. in the CULC. I'll send out additional information about that. Next week is going to be our last actual talk. The meeting after that, we'll just chill. We'll watch a really cool movie. If you haven't seen Sneakers, it's an epic movie. It's really, really cool. And so, you know, I hope you guys are excited for the end of the semester and all that good jazz. Please come up here, take pizza. Please take pizza. That's it.